Hello and welcome to Design and Business Conversations for Creatives. I'm Cheyney and today I am chatting with Monica from Mark My Words. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Otherwise, if you're regular, you will notice that I've started putting in the links below so you can just get directly to the question. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and support the channel by subscribing. It just lets me know that you enjoy this content and it inspires me to put out more for you. So yeah, anyway, a little bit about Monica and I and how we met. So we met through being on the Freelance Village, which is a platform for New Zealand creatives. And we met at the first time. Did you organise the meetup?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I love the Freelance Village, the concept of it, and the that community and that sense of transparency within the freelance community. I think it's really important to foster those relationships and community over competition. That whole concept.
Absolutely. I think Erin, who is in charge of the Freelance Village and happens to be a friend of mine as well, has done a very good job with curating a platform of quality freelancers. And then it was really cool that you reached out, and because she lives in another city, but got together the Auckland crew to meet up, and that's how we met. And then we've met up recently for a coffee, and we've just started this little connection going. And I thought it would be really nice to bring Monica up and share a little bit about your business and your journey. So yeah, this is Monica from Mark My Words, and if you could just give us a little background about yourself and your business, that would be cool before we dive into the questions.
Cool. Okay, so I started Mark My Words in 2010. So I am a copywriter, which basically means I write content for other businesses. So that for me, the majority of the work I do is online content. So websites, things like the thought leadership blogs and articles. So I work quite closely with business leaders and tap into their mind and then kind of create content that they obviously then share with their own communities and colleagues, which helps them build their brand. Basically, I guess anywhere where a brand has a written touch point is somewhere where I can help. Increasingly, that's things like video scripts as well, with video content. But yeah, that's, I guess, copywriting in a nutshell. I work with all sorts of businesses, so majority small to medium size, but also some international corporates.
Oh, cool!
So I get it's something that every business has a need for. I think whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a big, international, the way that we communicate is so important. So yeah, that's the role of a copywriter, I guess.
I really admire copywriters as well, because it isn't something. Whenever I sit down to write anything, it takes me forever.
And that's the thing, right? And I mean, I guess most of us can write, but it becomes when you actually have to think about it, and that's what people do. They overthink about it, and there is a bit of a craft and skill to it, and especially in the world we operate in now, where often the first contact and sometimes the only contact we have with a brand is online. So how you actually do communicate in the words that you use is so important.
And just as a little side note here, but what I notice as a packaging designer is copy on the back of shampoo bottles and conditioner bottles is so important. I remember being in the shower washing my hair and reading the back of a bottle, and I was like, this brand clearly did not pay someone to write this copy.
Yeah, funny, right? Yeah,
and it was blaringly obvious to me, and I guess before then I hadn't paid too much attention to that kind of thing, but yeah.
And that's the thing as well, a brand, as we know, is not a logo. A brand is every touch point that you have, and you can't drop the ball anywhere, like whether it is the back of the packaging or your website or the emails that you send, there has to really be a consistency in the brand voice and in the language that you use, because that's how people recognize your brand. It's not just the visual identity, it's the the way you communicate and how you make them feel every time they use a product. And That's, I guess, a big part that people perhaps underestimate. You know, it's, and you know, like design is the really sexy side of it, where it's like fun.
And I think I've been guilty of that in the past as well. It's only been in the last few years where I've actually worked with copywriters where I've actually appreciated it more and more. And apologies on my behalf to the copywriters of the world for that.
That's all right.
I am guilty of it, and I'm doing better and much better now. And
I definitely have seen, I think, a shift in people's understanding of the value of copy, and perhaps that is because, you know, the way we interact with brands, it's happening online, or you don't have that luxury of that face-to-face meeting, so you're a lot more conscious of how you represent yourself and how you differentiate yourself as well, and that's where that brand voice comes in.
Absolutely. So. And possibly this is going a little bit off topic.
Yeah,
we do have questions. No, it's me, but that's because I'm interested. Lost it. Oh, yeah. So one thing that perhaps could be contributing to that as well is the snappy need to get information quickly and succinctly, and have just, you know, things moving fast, need this quick and fast, and I think maybe content has been becoming more obvious. Copy content has been becoming more obvious to me in the last few years because of that. Because if I read something, I'm kind of like, I don't have time to read this. This doesn't get to the point. You know?
And that's where I think a copywriter that's where the value of a copywriter comes in as well. Where you know, as a brand, you know everything, or a business owner, you know everything there is to know about the work you do, you're an expert in it, but you don't necessarily know what your audience actually need to hear. So that's what I think where people can get it a bit wrong, where they're just overwhelming people with information. But that's, your audience is there to just get the information that they need, make a decision, figure out whether you're the right one for them, and then obviously, you know, make an inquiry or do whatever it is that you want them to do. So I think having that perspective of a copywriter is a big part of the value, where it's not just like, you know, here's a whole lot of information. It's like, let's just figure out what your audience needs to know and the best way to communicate that to them. So I say sometimes it's like being a bit too close to your own genius. Is that you've got all this information, but you just actually don't know what's relevant to your audience. So that's actually a big part of a copywriter's role as well. And like you say, just succinctly getting the right message to the right people.
All right, well, let's dive in with these questions. How would you describe your business, and maybe how would you describe the tone of your brand?
Yeah, so I guess I've been on quite a journey with my own brand. I think a lot of us creators, we start out thinking that we're going to create this agency that's something bigger than us, and I've really come full circle back to just working like I am my brand, and people appreciate that, I think, because, you know, they get to work with someone who gets quite intimately involved and understands their business and their passion. And you know, my business now, I really try to focus on working with those really purpose-driven brands. It's something that's really important to me. So I like to think that that's, you know, when a lot of people, they land on my website and inquire and say, hey, I really like the conversational tone of your website. I liked, you know, I get a sense of who you are, and I like to think that I'm very authentic in the way that I do communicate about my own brand, and in the way that I work with my clients as well. You know, that relationship stuff is just so important.
I think what I've noticed from hopping on your website and your socials is you present yourself extremely professionally. We haven't worked together yet. Hopefully we will soon. For me, that indicates that if I'm going to be someone who's working with you, I can kind of get a sense of what working with you will be like, which seems quite slick and quite professional, and like no fuss.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, and I think that that's why a lot of my clients actually kind of continue to come back, because some people, I don't know, you can overcomplicate these things and make it a bit too hard for people, and I still want to really retain that sense that people are working with, like, I'm a person and I'm involved in their business, and they can call on me and ask questions, and I'm really closely tied into them, and they need to feel that they need to feel really comfortable that the person writing on their behalf is understands them as well.
Yeah,
and so I hope that that kind of comes across in the work that I do.
Cool. All right. So question number 2, why did you start your business?
So I guess my answer to this question is perhaps twofold, where there was, a real personal driver behind starting my own business and having a bit more of a sense of freedom and control over my own life. I'm sure, a lot of freelancers and business owners would understand that. Yeah. I'm working, in a corporate role where you're 9 to 5 stuck at a desk getting told when you can have a lunch break or if you're allowed to have a day off. Like that kind of stuff just didn't work for me. And I guess any other business owner will attest that you don't really, sometimes you start your own business and you work harder than you've ever worked before and you have less time than you ever thought. But still, you're in control of your own destiny. So there was that kind of side of it where I knew that I wanted to really work for myself. But in terms of the why behind Mark My Words, so my background is actually like formal study in linguistics.
Cool.
So looking at the socio side of language, like, how language kind of contributes to how we connect, how we form community, sense of identity, and there's a bit of a psychology around language, so why we say what we say and how we say it. So that was kind of, my foundational stuff. And then after university, I went overseas and was traveling. And believe it or not, it was a time before social media, if anyone can remember that far back. But to keep in touch with my friends and family back home, I was writing these like emails, I guess, like a travel blog. And I had like great content because I was kind of doing all these interesting things. But I realized that, two things. People were really engaged with that content. It was all true. I wasn't making anything up, but it was really interesting for people and they were responding really well. And also for me, I suddenly was able to write without any expectation or pressure. You go through school and university and a lot of that creativity is actually like wiped out because it's like, just answer the question.
Yeah.
And I never considered myself a creative person until I was kind of given this freedom to write.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So, and then the third thing I guess was like, I came back to New Zealand and I obviously got into a job but wanted to break free and I was kind of looking for where's my sweet spot. And around about that time was also when, this is 10 years ago or so, everyone was getting a website and increasingly becoming aware and conscious of search engine optimization. And I realized that there wasn't really anyone kind of in the copy space really owning that. So there was the technical side of SEO, but there was no one really owning the copywriting, SEO copywriting side. So I kind of had this trifecta where I thought, well, there's my sweet spot where you kind of combine this understanding of language, the storytelling part, and the SEO technical side of things. So that's, I guess, where I thought I saw myself sitting with Mark My Words was actually, how do we take this SEO stuff and get it right, but then also really help people connect with their audience through language and words and storytelling. Yeah, I guess that's kind of my why around how Mark My Words came about. And again, over the years, it's been a journey. People were super concerned about that SEO thing. Everyone was getting online, they wanted to get found. But now that whole storytelling piece is a lot more important. Like now everyone's online, but how do you differentiate? And that is where brand story and that real connection and that forming a sense of community with your audience through language. So I think that whole storytelling linguistics part is now kind of more of a draw card for people than the whole SEO piece. So,
I wonder what's next as well, because like anything is kind of like a trends and
absolutely and as a copywriter or any creative, I think you've got to stay relevant. You've got to keep up with that and understand how people are engaging with content and
cool, very insightful.
Anyway, that was like in a nutshell.
No, I could go on. I think that was really good and gives I always like hearing the story of people's why, and I think mine is fairly similar to yours, and it's kind of two-part as well. But definitely the being in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Which I think
Yeah.
anyone who's a creative entrepreneur will totally understand that, having, you know, creative freedom and being able to steer the direction.
Yeah.
But I think that's really cool. And I don't think I've actually ever met anyone who studied linguistics.
Oh, I don't know what
linguistics.
I don't know what I thought I was going to do with it. Like when I went
really
in there.
cool though, and you've used it obviously.
Well, I guess one part of the bit that I skipped was that I'd come back and I started doing this editing diploma, and that was the first time I even knew that a copywriter existed. Like I didn't know that copywriting was a thing. And so I kind of came across it, stumbled across it, but it started, I guess, by going, well, what do I actually enjoy and what are my skills? And then that kind of led me down that path. So, and here we are. 10 years later.
This is a side question. This isn't actually on my thing, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm interested.
Yeah.
What did you want to be when you were younger? Like when you were older, what was your dream?
What did I want to be? I think I was kind of convinced I was going to be a teacher.
Well, you kind of are in a sense, really.
It's funny because I guess, part of my degree was language teaching because I also studied French and Spanish, and I don't know, I think I just thought that was a path to take, but now I don't know if I could. I don't know. I couldn't stand in front of a classroom, but I guess someone did point out to me the other day that I am by default like a teacher because you know, when I share content and that actually it's a big part of my role. So
My next question is, what is your typical day like?
I must say it's not very exciting. The role of a copywriter involves sitting at a desk and obviously writing, but I get to chat to some really interesting people. I love that about my job. You know, I work with interesting people doing interesting stuff, and to really do the work that I do well, I do have to get to know their business, the work that they do, their customers. So a lot of it is research and time spent understanding the intricacies and the processes involved in someone else's business. But yeah, for the most part, it's really just like sitting at my desk and tapping out content.
Do you get out and about? Do you find that's important for your workday? Yeah,
I do. So I do, get up in the morning and I go for my walk. I think because I work from home and often people ask like, oh, you'd wake up at 10, you sleep in, stay in your pajamas. And no, like I actually am like quite...
I do.
I mean, that is like, the beauty of, working from home. But I very much, I keep a structure to my day. But I do like to start, I live near the beach and I walk down to the beach every day and, get to my desk at about like 8:30. So I do try to keep a bit of structure. But then, there's also the flexibility to go, I'm going to finish at 3 and go see a friend or see my family or go outside, do some exercise. As a business owner, you get really focused on doing and feeling like you have to be busy. And then you kind of come back to this, wasn't the whole point of this that I get to choose what I do and when I do it? And I think, and I've actually even worked with a coach over it where it's like you've got to come back to that why and come back to that. What are you doing this for? And actually the whole point was that you do get to have more control and freedom and time for what really matters to you. So it's definitely been a journey, and to not feel guilt, like to go, I'm going to take Friday off and ignore my emails and to not feel guilty about it.
Yeah, I feel that as well, definitely. Yeah. Okay, cool. So any advice for a client? This can be anything. It could be a hypothetical client. It could be whatever you just want to say.
I guess, perhaps coming back to what we were talking about earlier around understanding the value of good copy. So investing the time and the effort, not necessarily the money, because I think that, it's something you can do on your own, but around really understanding your purpose and your values and your voice, and from there, some key messaging pillars that are really represent your brand and who you are, because we know that increasingly people are choosing to work with businesses and brands because of their values, because of their ethos, because of their purpose. So getting really clear on that stuff right from the start is actually going to really help differentiate you and it drives a lot of your decisions as well, like who you partner with, like the brands that you choose to work with, the kind of people that you want to work with, because it can be really easy to just go, I'll take whatever work I can get. But I think, increasingly in the world that we are all operating in, that whole values piece is super important. And it really does drive a brand voice. And when you understand your values, then that voice becomes easy. It becomes really, you can keep it consistent. It's easier to write a social media post because you're not sitting there going, oh, I don't know what to say. You're like, come back to your values, come back to those core messages. It doesn't feel like you're being pushy. It doesn't feel like you're selling. And your audience start to kind of recognize that, and that becomes your brand. So I think probably don't underestimate the value of values and purpose and getting really clear on your brand voice from the start. Yeah,
that's really cool. That's something that I think I need to focus on a little bit more. So thank you for that, because I just I'm checking myself as you're talking. I'm like, yeah. Okay, cool. And you've been in business, what, 10 years now? Yeah, good on you. That's cool. And what do you wish you knew 5 years ago?
So many things. Here's my list. I think probably one of the big things is we get to all decide our own definition of success. And I think it's really easy with social media and, to look at other people and the work that they're doing, or the content that they're producing, or the things that they're saying through social, and to compare yourself. But when you are really, really clear on your own version of success, and that can look like whatever you want.
Absolutely.
There
isn't rules for that.
No. And I think that, probably 5 years ago, I was really striving for something that I thought that I should have. And then actually, when you do come back to that why and what really matters in life, and really just getting super clear on that vision of success and just being like happy and content with that versus pushing for something that, I don't know, it's not really worth it in the end. So I think probably that, just knowing that business doesn't have to look a certain way.
I think it's really important.
Yeah. And you get to decide your own version of success, and that's okay. To not compare with anyone else, and
stay in your own lane.
That's it. Stay in your own lane.
And my last question is, where can people find you? I will put all the links below.
markmywords.co.nz is the website. I share a lot of content on Instagram, which is mark.my.words.nz. I should have thought about that before I registered that. And then Facebook as well, so Mark My Words NZ, I think it is on there. I'm obviously based here in Auckland, but I work with clients all over the country and all over the world. So
cool.
Yeah.
Hit her up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming up. It's been really interesting to hear you talk.
Thank you for having me.
You speak beautifully on camera.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very impressed. I'm sitting here, so why, so yeah, so well done. Well done you. And for you at home, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you want to be notified of more of these videos, just hit the notifications bell, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.